Hi everybody, I'm Zena Awesome, and today I'm going to tell you a story. This is when I lived in England. I was stationed in England, and my hubby was there too. He was my dependent though. By the time we got married, he was actually already out of the Air Force. So we're living in England, and a lot of times when you're in the military you can live in base housing, but when you're overseas a lot of times the base housing is very limited. So we did not live on base. We lived about 20-25 miles away, and it was a road that was, I think you had to go like 40-45 on it. It wasn't a really fast road, so it took over half an hour to get to work every day. And although my hubby didn't have a job there because it was really hard to find employment when you're overseas and all that. So, but he would come to base with me because at least there was a rec center and I could meet him for lunch and that type of thing. So it's early in the morning, it's dark, and we're driving to work, we're driving to base, and there's a phenomenon called black ice. And it's called black ice because you can't see it on the road. And sure enough, this morning I didn't think there was ice on the road because there was no ice on my windshield. My windshield had water on it, no frost, so I really didn't think it was that cold out. Well, as I hit the ice, I did really good. I turned into the curve, started to get control, lost control again, turned into the curve, turned into the skid, but on the third time when I tried to regain, the car just was fishtailing way too much. So it fishtailed, it spun all the way around, hit the side of the road, and then flipped over into a ditch. So the next thing you know, there we are, hanging by our seatbelts, going, "Are you okay? I'm okay. Are you okay? I'm okay." Back and forth, back and forth. So we determined that we're both okay. We weren't hurt. But it's a really, really strange feeling hanging from your seatbelt in a car. And of course it's dark out, there's not a lot of traffic. Because we'd gone down in a ditch, there was no way to open the doors because the doors were kind of pinned shut by the way the car landed. So I was honking my horn so that hopefully somebody would know we were down in this ditch, because we weren't far down in a ditch. But we were far enough down that I wasn't sure that people were going to be able to see us as they drove by. So I'm honking the horn, I was doing the SOS thing, and someone did help us, and we ended up having to, unhook our seat belts and kind of flop around, and it was a hatchback. So we were able to pop the hatchback open enough for us to crawl out the back. So fortunately for other people, because we were the first people down the road, we saw at least 3 or 4 other cars sliding in the area. But the reason they didn't go off the road was because it already slowed down, because by that time the police car was there and everything else. So, quiet. So, needless to say, the car was totaled. Now, when you go overseas, you're allowed to bring a car, and so I only had the one car. But you still got to get to work. And when we were in England, we were really, really, really poor. I think that's probably the poorest we'd ever been, is when we lived overseas in England. The Air Force doesn't pay a whole lot, and they do give a little extra money for being when the exchange rate is high, so they kind of give you some extra, but we didn't have enough money to be able to, say, buy another car. So what I was doing for a while is I started hitchhiking to and from work. And like I said, it was 20-25 miles. It wasn't exactly close, but fortunately it was more or less down a main road. So I would hitchhike to work, and then I would go outside the main gate in the evening and hitchhike home. And I'd been doing that for, I don't know, about a week or two. And one of the people giving me a ride home said, they had a car, but it wasn't a reliable car, and they really didn't want to sell it because it wasn't reliable, but they thought maybe I'd appreciate buying it. And I said, yes, please, thank you. So I went to their house, and they sold me this car for $50. Now let me tell you what a good deal this $50 was, because in England, every year you have to have your car inspected, and the car inspection ticket is like over $100. And this car had already been inspected, so it had more than $50 worth of inspection on it, never mind the car itself. It did need a tire, so I was able to buy a used tire for like 20 bucks. And we ended up driving that car for almost a year. It had minor challenges. That's the time when actually I learned to work on a car, because when you only spend $50 on a car, you're kind of loath to take it to a mechanic and spend a lot of money on it. The brakes leaked. I'd have to fill it with brake fluid all the time. And then at one point I needed to change the master cylinder. And this is just the really great thing, is it was such a common car in England, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what type of car it was, but it was such a common car in England that one of the, what they call local nationals, I mean someone who is from England, works on base, saw me and says, you know what? He says, I think I've got an extra master cylinder laying around. And I said, you do? Because he saw me working on the brakes and bleeding the lines. And I says, that would be great. So I actually had someone bring me a free master cylinder that I was able to put in, and that actually fixed the brake problem, at least well enough to drive. And there was a few other minor repairs we did on it with used parts or donated parts. And it was just amazing. There are so many awesome people out there that are willing to help, pretty much no matter where you are or when it is. So I tend to get really discouraged when people say that people aren't nice anymore. Granted, this was a long time ago. This would have been in England in 1989. But still, I mean, someone selling me a car for $50. Well, first of all, being able to hitchhike back and forth to work, that's a biggie. And then someone selling me a car for $50 was amazing. And then people giving me parts to be able to repair my car was really amazing. So I don't know. It's something you'd never expect, and I doubt many people have had that type of experience. And no, generally speaking, I don't work on cars. And I'll tell you, after that experience, not only did I learn that working on cars is a royal pain in the butt, but if I could afford to pay somebody to work on my car, I would. You know, I'm not going to crawl under my car and even change the oil. I'll just go to some place and let them do that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have the capability to do it if I need to. So hope that's a story that people find interesting. Let me know in the comments. I've got more stories like that. And this story is gonna be a precursor to a story I'm planning tomorrow. And that's how I got the car that replaced this $50 car. So if you like this story, tune in tomorrow, next part, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.